What's up, everybody? It is me, your boy Rico No Suave. Let me say it again for you. Rico No Suave. And man, I want to give a big shout out to Jennifer Behrens because, of course, she couldn't make it as far as here, but we do love you. And thank you so much for introducing me to this lovely lady that's actually in the film industry as well, too. También. Ella cubana también, right? So we here. Yeah. We here. We are here. And I'm in the mountains. I just want to let you guys know that I took a trip to the mountains, and I am here with none other than Cynthia Garcia, Mama. Mm-hmm. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so I'm here, man. I mean, I'm in the mountains with you and your lovely husband, man. And you guys have such a beautiful place. So thanks so much for taking the time for me to interview you and also just understand the background of, why you guys moved here and why you're actually here. And now tell everybody, what is the name of this city?
Santa Clarita.
Okay. So Santa Clarita, right? Yeah, okay. Está bueno. So being here for quite some time, and of course, I do want to talk about a few points, right? As a Latina in the film industry, right? That's going to be a big one that we want to definitely talk about. But let's talk about some of your accolades. Let's talk about how did you get started? Because you are a filmmaker as well. So let's talk about you into filmmaking. How did you get started?
I got started, it's funny. Actually, I finished a master's program in psychology, and I was working in mental health for many years. And I got my degree. My husband decided to go back to school. Okay. So for his MBA, I'm like, oh my goodness, he's going to be so busy. I'm never going to see him. And I need to find a hobby or something to do. So I was like, I'm going to write a screenplay. I'll just go on YouTube, listen to a couple people, buy a book maybe, and it'll be so great. It'll be awesome. And I'll sell it. Yeah. And it's not that easy. Yeah. Writing a screenplay is incredibly difficult. It's probably easier to write a book, I think.
Sure.
And had not the same respect for sure as I have today around filmmaking, and that it's a craft, and, you need to, be trained for a lot of things. And so that's how it started. I was just going to write a script. And it seems like so long ago, like all the things that have happened in the last 3 years, I think. Yeah. From the time I took a director's lab, I got into a director's lab, and the 6-month program, script to screen. Didn't even really know what a director did. I didn't know. I was telling the woman who heads that organization, I don't have any desire to be a director, which without knowing what it was, right? Sure. And I was bit from the first set I was on. It's like all of the color came into my world. I had no idea that that's what I was supposed to be doing. So
growing up, our parents used to look at black and white films back in the day, Perez Prado, and looking at, Celia Cruz, and looking at the musicals, but also we used to look at Frank Sinatra and seeing how the movies had elevated from black and white to color, right? And then you see like how the 80s did their videos as, you had MTV and you had like Paramount and all of those that were actually Technicolor, that was actually during that time. And for you growing up during that time as well too, and seeing the actual changes, and when you actually got the bug, right? I'm saying, hey, I want to do this too. Yes. Did you ever think that you would want to actually reminisce on the way that certain films were actually filmed for back in the day and say, you know what, sit down, Cynthia, I think I want to actually do it this way, right, to make it different? Have you thought about that?
I have. I'll tell you, I wanted to be an actress for many, many years. I did a lot of stage things in high school and stuff like that. And so I always loved film. Okay. I didn't know how they were made or anything like that, but I knew that I loved watching film. And the first film that I watched in a theater was Grease.
Oh, wow.
And I fell in love with John Travolta, number one.
Of course.
My husband knows, so it's totally fine. He's the one exception. I'm like, But yeah, I fell in love with John Travolta. I fell in love with story,
Sure.
and how you feel,
Yeah.
when you see a movie. But he was kind of a villain in a way, right? And I think from then on, I've always been intrigued by villains. So, or what people perceive to be villains.
Sure.
And so I was actually thinking about that really recent, like what's my through line in all the movies I've done? And they've always had a villain where you get an explanation of why they're the way they are most of the time, but hopefully the audience feels some compassion. And even the rom-com that I just finished,
Okay.
the lead is, I don't know how people are gonna feel about her, but I love her.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that if anything, that's what I probably bring into my films.
Yeah.
I love old. So,
Yeah.
The Godfather was another one that is
Nice.
very impactful. I was watching movies that I absolutely should not have been watching at my age, like The Deer Hunter. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. Robert De Niro, Meryl, like when she was super young.
Yeah, sure.
It's about Vietnam and it's crazy, and it was one of my favorite movies. Splendor in the Grass was another one of my favorite movies with Natalie Wood.
Okay.
So, one of the things that my mom did do is introduce me to a lot of, music and
Okay.
TV and theater and opera and
Yeah.
those things. So that was kind of, I think, embedded. My mother was a dancer, and so there was always music
Yeah.
for sure. So,
I like that. I like that piece because you have a soundtrack within music, right? So there's always soundtracks, right? There's always, music that goes along with the film. And when people hear a certain song, like, oh man, that is awesome. Or it's a song that they used to listen to that you brought them back, right? And that the ratings just go sky high from there, right?
Yeah.
So Cynthia, when it comes to your films and let's talk about how many films that you have developed, right? And then also let's talk about the thought process behind each one. Now, we did say you kind of gave the audience a little bit of villain, right? You gave them some villains, right? So let's talk about your films that you actually developed.
So the first one, the challenge was to use the theme of Nirvana in some way.
Okay.
And I'm in recovery. I've been sober for 23 years. And so, thank you.
Yeah.
So when the first thing I thought of Nirvana was drugs.
Yeah.
Like that's where we try to get, and that's where we try to go. And so I did some research on it and like what prevents people from Nirvana. And dukkha is a word that means suffering. Is that going to be terrible?
No, we got.
Was going to be. Dukkha means suffering. It's the thing that keeps us from Nirvana, and there are several layers to it, right?
Okay.
So part of that is taking responsibility for your life, for your actions and stuff like that. And so that's really what that movie is about. It's a snapshot into my life towards the end when, our family went through a lot of challenges because of my addiction.
Sure.
And so, so that was dukkha. And, she's an alcoholic mom. So, some people might perceive her as a villain.
Yeah.
The next one is named Bilongo.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Let's go. Okay.
That's named Bilongo.
Bilongo.
Yes. And it's Cuban folklore.
Yep.
Right. And
Yes.
but it's told from the spirit's perspective. So there's a spirit that was her job is to be cast on people. Right. And so it's kind of like, man, that sucks. Like to be that person that all people do is use you to torment other people. Nobody ever asks about the spirit. It's more like, get her out of here or get him out of here or whatever, cast him out.
Yeah.
So there's some ritual in there. And man, I had this amazing Cuban who sings, and he let me use his song Bilongo that him and his dad produced and stuff. And
awesome.
It was fun. That was fun to make. It was a little nod
Bilongo.
towards
Wow.
Bilongo. Yeah,
wow.
there's a misa and everything like that. So yeah, it's really cool.
Let's go.
Yeah,
okay.
but yeah, so she's a villain, right? She's a villain. Next I did the Bible Thumper and the Bruja, another witch thing. So that one
sounds like two different sides there.
It was. It was about a tarot card reading witch. Yeah, she's a witch. I called her Bruja, but Bruja sounds better than witch. And she is trying to get out of, done with her day to go on a holiday. Well, her neighbor is a Bible thumper. Like, you never really know whether he's a priest or not, but he dresses like one. Right? And so he's like, they're like tormenting each other, arguing. He's singing, Bible hymns and annoying her throughout the day. So she throws some chicken bones in his yard, and he thinks she cast a spell on him. So she's in her car getting ready to go to the airport, and she's like, man, this is all I wanted to do. And he appears out of nowhere and scares her, and then goes behind her car to pray for her. But instead of going forward, she goes backwards. So she kills him. And actually, throughout the movie, she's having symptoms of a heart attack. And women's symptoms for having a heart attack is very different from men.
Sure.
So if you know, you know, right?
Yep,
you see her doing certain things like, her jaw hurts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he came back as a ghost and scared her in the window, and then she died of a heart attack. So then they ended up in the afterlife together.
Wow. Wow.
They're like, it's pretty hot. You would she say, it's hot here. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of worrisome.
The chicken bones got me. So that is actually kind of that bruja type deal, depende, with a little salsa, whatever you go along with it, and
Yeah.
But I think, the villain, you said the villain within themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have certain people that will probably relate to, as a person as being a villain, there's different ways of thinking about that. And the reason why I say this is because sometimes we're our own villain.
Yeah.
Right? You were kind of your own villain, and thank God that you got sober and for 23 years, and you're no longer a villain.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're a villain in other ways,
Yeah.
But I think you kind of bring out the villain in this last one, of course, with people themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because sometimes society creates a villain, right?
That's correct.
And we have definitely become intolerant.
Yep.
It's a really weird day and age where just people get canceled so quickly, and sometimes, justifiably they get canceled, and sometimes not so much, or it's not as clear, why things are happening. And, I was telling somebody this morning, we were talking about, gossip in celebrity land or whatever, and how when I was younger, we waited for the Inquirer. You'd see it in a tabloid, and when you're on your way to pay, right? But it wasn't plastered everywhere. We didn't have Entertainment Tonight. We didn't have long segments on celebrities and stuff. So things were they were just different. It took longer for things to travel, right? Today, 1 second you say something wrong on camera, and you're just, or if you say something wrong on camera from 10 years ago, and most of us evolve, right?
Yes.
So, so the horror film that I did is about El Cucuy, and he's also folklore, but that one goes into his history and how he actually became the Cucuy. And the mom there is a little villainous too. She's not disciplining her daughter. So, that one's so intertwined with, with the choices that we make and the consequences that happen from those choices, and hopefully people have a little bit of compassion, and look at people in our world that maybe are suffering, and instead of being judgmental or turning the other cheek, like the mom you see in the grocery store that's suffering with the 3 kids, and you're like, people are looking at her like, get control of your kids, instead of somebody saying, hey, can I give you a hand?
Yeah.
I think we've lost that as a society for sure.
Excuse me. I think kind of choked up because
Oh.
you're right. You're right. I mean, I think also it's not either having a father in place as well too. There's no discipline, right? And of course, sometimes it's hard for a single mom. And you kind of talked about, behind the scenes about twins. My sister has twins. She had 4 boys, and she raised them basically by herself. Right. And it was hard, but the family was there to help.
Right.
Right. If you don't have that, then, the kindness of people, like you're saying, should help.
Right.
To be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about the Kukui. Now, the Kukui, is that in a different movie? Or is
Yes, I have 2 other ones. So Kukui was one that I did with the La Leaf Inclusion Fellowship. It was sponsored by Netflix.
Okay.
It's won some awards. I'm really proud of it.
Congratulations.
A little short film, and it's a proof of concept for a feature.
Sure.
Hopefully, I'm already working on it. But anyhow,
Sure.
It's just it's a cautionary tale about what happens. And, so much of that was me processing or attempting to process my own child rearing. Now my daughter has kids, watching how she, raises her kids.
Yeah.
And it's so odd because, I'm Gen X, right? So we were free to do whatever we wanted. You know what I mean? It was like, here's the key, pick up your brother from school and make dinner,
Yeah.
And at really young age. And then my daughter, my kids, all of them, I raised them pretty free also in terms of their minds, right? Make whatever choices you want to do. Whatever you do is fine with me, a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And my daughter's very strict. You know what I mean? Not so much freedom. And I'm like, what is going on? That's not how I raised you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The gene somewhere. There's a gene in there somewhere. Yeah.
So just questioning the things that we learn from our parents. What do we keep? What do we toss?
Sure.
Right? And, how much is too much discipline, right? Mm-hmm. How much is not enough?
Sure.
You could go to either extreme. And so asking those questions, this is what the movie asks. They're the parents are immigrant children, who are trying to give their daughter a better life. Like, who cares if she wants pizza every night for dinner?
That's
what
right.
does it hurt?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And then El Kukui, he's experienced serious tragedy and turned to alcoholism, and him becoming a monster, renouncing God, right, is his inability to take responsibility for where the choices he's made that have created the life that he has.
Sure.
And so I love him so much. It was really hard because he's evil, and I get it, but I felt that I identified the most with him.
Sure.
Because of the alcoholism, right?
I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah.
And then we just completed a feature. It's in post. We're so excited about it.
Let's go.
Yeah, this one was fun. It's a rom-com. We're not married.
Okay.
It follows 2 couples that get married on a whim. They have very different, backgrounds and how they ended up together. Yeah. And they find out 10 years after this wacky wedding that they're not married. Mm. So it's about, figuring out, do they want to be married? We have an out. What do we want to do? They work through problems. I love that it speaks a lot about trauma. There's a scene that actually was taken from my husband and I's premarital counseling, but the therapist told us, you attract the people that are going to help you work through your childhood trauma.
Oh man,
right?
Yes,
that's why you guys are together.
That's
Isn't
right.
that so cool?
Oh, that is.
And so through the years, we've gotten to see how things play. I mean, you talked to us for a few minutes. Yep. Couldn't be more different, right? And so I think that we balance each other out. And so the movie does talk a lot about trauma therapy, how these things play into relationships. And I think it's a little non-traditional in the sense of like the regular rom-com.
Sure.
It's also Latino-led.
Okay.
And we have a ton of Afro-Latinos in the cast.
Let's go.
And there was a moment when we were filming, and I looked in the screen, and all I saw, it makes me emotional, all I saw was all these Afro-Latinos, speaking Spanish, their beautiful faces, all these different shades of brown.
Yeah.
And I felt accomplished.
Yeah.
I felt grateful that I had a producer who is not a Latina, and gave me a lot of freedom to, say coño if we wanted to. She was like, that's a bad word. I'm like, it's really not.
Not in Latin films.
Yeah, she's like, I looked it up. I know what it means. I actually looked it up, and the Google definition is not how we use it, or how anybody that I know uses it, but whatever.
So if you guys happen to hear that
That's
in movies and things like that, it's okay.
That's
it's
right.
okay.
Yeah. Don't listen to Google.
Right.
It means, oh, shucks. That's what it actually, or oh, wow, So it's not a bad word. People say, we don't consider it so, but
Correct.
yeah, she was like, okay, I don't know about the rating. I'm like, don't worry. Gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It's not the F word, and it's definitely not what Google says it is. Everybody's gonna go look it up now.
I know. Only if they know how to spell it, right?
Yeah, they'd be like, "Is that what my grandma was saying?"
And that's the beauty behind it, right?
Yeah.
You're actually bringing cultures of other cultures to see what you're all about.
Right.
Right. I think that's the best thing about rom-com and also your other movies, right?
Yeah.
Your other movies kind of have a trend of things that you go through, but you've also seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the life stories, right? But I think for the rom-com, I think that's going to be kind of like a diversified of opening up eyes for people to be able to see.
Yeah.
Right? And also to be able to, go out and, say, oh, coño, right?
That's right.
Coño, right? So however they want to say it,
Yeah, or hey, I think I'm going to get myself into some therapy. I saw this movie, and I feel like maybe I want to talk about trauma. Like, that would be great.
That'd be awesome. You want to definitely have a positive vibe to the ending of the movie, or it's for them to be able to get that message, right? All right. I got one more question for you. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay. Because it's all about the Latinas in the industry, right? You as a Latina coming up in the industry and also seeing that you're working. I got a few things with this because sometimes I get emotional as far as with this because I look at it as from a minority standpoint to be able to get to the big screen. But also the big screen itself may show a glimpse of black and brown in movies until your talent really shows very well. And I always like to bring up his name because he's one of my favorite producers, directors, actor, Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Right? And I love to see him. But you as a Latina, where have you seen your movies that you have put out and the responses in regards to you being proud to knowing that there's more? How have you been feeling with the movies that you've been coming out with, and where are you at now?
I feel incredibly proud. It's been really hard. I directed my first film 3 years ago, and here we are with a completed, almost close to completed feature.
Yeah.
I know that it's a gift. Like, I'm aware how rare it is, right?
Yeah.
But I've had some really good people in my life. I have an incredibly supportive husband. I always say you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. Listen, filmmaking took over my life. Like, I was working a full-time job and then working a full-time job to teach myself what I needed to be a filmmaker. And I still have a long ways to learn because you learn, really through experience.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't go to film school, right? So I had to, I was like on 23 sets one year, every weekend on a set, or, mostly, or editing. I taught myself to edit, or, helping somebody on their set, or writing, right? Or filming. And so, or going to a networking event.
Of
so
course.
It was,
Yes.
full-time job. And I'd be like laid out on the floor sometimes, like, tell my husband, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Like, I'm exhausted, My friends were like, listen, we're not going to ask you anymore. Like, you know what I mean? If you want to come, because I had to give up things, know?
Sure.
My grandchildren were really small. I wasn't able to maybe be as involved as I wanted to. So there's been sacrifice, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been worth it, right? Because it's a passion. I don't feel like it's work.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not, you know, you just have to make a decision. Like, I don't think I can fail at this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I need to let this consume me, and I think I have a little more balance now. But then again, I'm not sure because I am still really busy all the time.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had some really great people in my life, and so that has been a gift, and not necessarily even in the film industry. Like, people in recovery that have, reminded me where I was 20 years ago and where I am today, that are cheerleaders that have rooted for me, people that I consider family and not friends. I've got my 2 girlfriends that have been in my life for over 30 years. Like, that's
Let's
not
go.
common.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I've been pretty blessed. It's been a community. I feel like I was raised, by a recovery community, by, people that have come into my life, like those 2 girls that I'm telling you about.
Yeah.
They were the first Puerto Ricans I ever met. I was 14.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, these girls are like me. Like, I had never met anybody that felt was like me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So yeah, they gave me a sense of identity. And I think now with the film women that I've met, a lot of Afro-Latinas,
Yeah.
at my age, I've come to terms with a lot of things about who I am and how I present to the world
Yes.
versus what I thought I was presenting to the world and where I thought I fit in. And that's happened in the last several years. And it's been a gift that I've received from meeting Afro-Latinas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have this glow about you when you say Afro-Latinas because you know about the roots. The roots is there, right? You can definitely tell that the Afro-Latinas brings color into film.
Yeah, they do.
And that's what I really love why you keep saying that, because, of course, you got the white Latinos and you have the black Latinos. And you got the middle. You got the middle, too. Then you got the mix, right? And which is good, right? Because you understand those sides, right? But I really love that you really bring that out. And you bring that out more as being more of a proud Latina of color, right? Which is so awesome, right? Which is so awesome. And I think that that's really needed, right? Because when you see color on the screen like that, remember it was black and white back in the day, but when you really start seeing color there, it brings a different aspects of what people should be able to perceive. Man, I want to see that. Even if you see them dancing, the Afro rhythms, right? And you see them dancing, people tend to like, what is that? What is that all about?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh my God, that's nice. Yeah. People might want to go out and start taking classes.
Hope so.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Start taking classes, want to learn how to dance because that's part of the music. That's part of what slavery was about, right? Where you had to wait until the moon came out to read a book.
Yeah.
But then music was always out in the field.
That's right.
Right? And for Latinos, Afro-Latinos, it was that African beat that was in there. And you had that, the clave, man, and that bongo, right? All right. You have everything that was there. Yeah. But that was also in the community.
It was. It's like ingrained in like our DNA. Like you can't get it out. One of the things that I had an interview for the Lalif Fellowship, and it was like, where am I as a Latina now? That type of thing. And I'm like, I am comfortable saying I'm an Afro-Latina.
Yeah.
I am comfortable with the fact that I hear drums and my body reacts. But I also have a physical reaction to mariachi, right? Because that's my dad's heritage. And I lived in Mexico for some time. I told you, I was raised by a Cuban grandma. And so both of those things are in me. And I don't have to choose one or the other. Yeah. Like I'm both, right? Yeah. And that has definitely been a gift of the journey. I didn't think several years ago that this was going to be part of the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had our hair and makeup, we were talking about like the looks for the girls. One of our leads is from Ghana. I hope that's right.
Ghana,
yeah. And and then the other one's Puerto Rican. And then we have some Afro-Latinas sprinkled in there. And Jennifer, right?
Yeah.
Venezuela. And so I was like, I want all of the women to have curly hair.
Nice.
different types of curly hair, but I don't want anybody's hair straightened.
Yeah.
Including Lisa Vidal, who's in it.
Okay.
Lisa Vidal.
Vidal.
Yeah. She killed me. She'd be like, say my name right, girl. And including her. She actually requested that her hair be curly.
That's hot.
Right?
That's hot.
I'm like, great, because that's exactly what we're doing.
That's
and so she was like, well, the hair and makeup, man, she's fabulous. She's one of the best. I really don't ever want to work with anybody else. Her name is Precious Jackson.
Let's go.
And she said, are you sure we want everybody with curly hair because they'll look the same? I'm like, listen, make their curls a little different. We always see people on film with all straight hair.
Yep.
Right? And we don't confuse them. So I really want to put that out there that this is, girls will be in their with their natural hair.
Yeah.
And we pulled it off. And it's great between Precious Jackson and Edward Garcia, who's an up-and-coming, fantastic, phenomenal costume designer.
Okay.
Who gave the women a Sex and the City look, but from LA. Right?
Yeah.
They're wearing some pretty great clothes. And it was just nice to be able to see that on camera, you know. Adelguisa, she's an actress, Dominican actress. They dyed her hair bleach blonde.
Ooh.
Or maybe platinum, more like platinum.
Okay.
And that was another thing that was like, yeah, like we are doing this thing.
Let's go.
You know, this is who we are. This is who we are. Marco, he's an Afro-Cuban actor that I adore. And he was like, what do you want me to be? I'm like, be yourself.
Yeah,
like, you know, because he can play it either way, right? He can be
awesome. And so congratulations on everything that you have done. I mean, you have took it to another level, right? And this another level that I have to say that of all of the movies that you have actually put together, and we know because of the things that you went through, you showed them, especially the villain. The villain thing is going to be in my head every time I see you, right? Because the villain piece is what we talked about, where the villain is within us, but also how do we come out from being that villain and being good people, right? Being good to ourselves as well too. So Cynthia, you're the bomb. That's all I gotta say. La bomba chica, man. You got it. You got it all the way. And I have to say, congratulations on everything that you have done. 3 years, there's gonna be more, right? More years. And you know, always think of me, right? When it's around time for the red carpet, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this again, you know?
Yes, of course. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
The sun is bright over here. I gotta tell you, we shining over here. And you know, Cynthia, thank you so much for actually being.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me, right? Thank you for having me here, because this is awesome. And everybody, if you don't know, you know now that look out for this young lady. She's doing great things, and look also for the organizations as well too. So continue to do great things, everybody. Until next time, Cynthia Garcia, Rico No Suave, from the Rico No Suave show here in Santa Clarita,
California.
Eso, papá. Let's go. All right, we'll see you guys later. Dale.